Yo, what's up, everybody? James and I just actually had a crazy podcast. We just talked about my time in prison. I actually got arrested, went to prison. Um, Crazy ass experience, but it's a awesome podcast. Check it out. Right on, man.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Yamatodamashii podcast. Enson, you're off to Hawaii soon. Are you all ready for your trip?
Yep, all packed, ready to go. Just got to get my PCR test in the morning and head to the airport. So ready to go.
Awesome. So today we thought let's do something a bit different. Let's talk about, we talk about all the different stories from your life, whether it's in fighting, outside of fighting. And one of the stories that, probably played quite a big factor in your life, but there isn't really that much information about there. And I really want, our listeners, your fans, people really to sort of hear what happened in your own words and have something pushed out there. And what I'm talking about is the time when you were arrested and actually went to prison for a bit. So, I mean, where's best to start?
Okay.
From what I can hear, it was kind of a crazy minimal amount, but let's get into that.
Yeah, well, let's start from the very beginning. What people don't understand is when I was growing up, my brother Egan never drank and he never smoked cigarettes or anything. And being in Hawaii, a lot of my friends used to smoke weed. And the funny thing about that is I never touched weed or alcohol my whole life. So I was always trading to try and be the best in the world. First it was racquetball. Then it was fighting. So I always thought that I didn't want to smoke or drink because I didn't want to smoke something and the next day I might do my time trials on my run. I can't run as fast and I never get it back, So I always thought I wanted to be at my top level. So I never did smoke or drink, throughout my whole career. I never touched that stuff. I opened a gym in Guam. Guam boys are like Hawaii. They like to smoke weed. And I didn't know for the first 4 years of my relationship with these guys that it was they're like my brothers. Yeah, they just loved weed, but I never knew they smoked.
Oh, really?
Then later on, when I guess they figured out I was cool with it. It came out that they used to smoke and they kind of used to hide and they used to smoke whenever I'm not around and stuff. And I was at the end of my career. And there was the guy who owns Fuck Eye, Roman De La Cruz. Him and his another guy, the guy who owns a Spike 22 gym, Melker Manabusan, they always told me, hey, let's go smoke weed. And I told them, man, hey, as long as I'm fighting, I'm not going to smoke weed because it might affect my ability to, run or perform. I mean, as we all know, weed is not a performance enhancer. So, I told them no. So they were cool. They backed off. Couple years later, he's at my house and he sits down and he goes, let's go smoke. Let's go smoke this jig. And I'm like, Roman, I don't smoke. He goes, you said that when you retire and you're retired right now. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I am retired. I did promise him that.
Oh, man, I got friends.
Okay. So I was like, okay, let's go. So we went into my back room. And I guess, I didn't know what the high feeling felt. I knew nothing about it. So, and I think I was, I think that was 19. I mean, that was 2000, maybe 2004 or 5. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was already pretty old in my 40s. And, I kind of, so I was kind of, I guess timid. So when we started smoking, we started passing around the joint. And I guess, I didn't feel anything. I didn't know what the high supposed to feel like. And I felt nothing. So we finished the joint. I was like, fuck, this marijuana shit ain't nothing. What's all this big talk about getting high and shit? Went to sleep, everything cool. Next day, he pulls out another joint. I'm like, there's smoke. And I'm like, oh, yeah, let's go. I did last night. Fuck. Didn't feel shit. So I guess because I didn't feel shit, I figured, this ain't shit. So I started taking bigger hits and taking it in deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And like halfway through the joint, man, I was like, whoo. My body started feeling really heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, holy shit. And then my head felt like I was a little bit like floating a little bit, that high feeling. So I was like, holy shit, I think I'm high. Fuck. So we kind of stopped that night. I went to sleep, and at that time I used to party a lot, and I would sleep like 3 to 4 hours a night. That night I slept like 6 to 7 hours, man, without waking up. And I was like, holy shit, this weed thing keeps me asleep, man. So I always had back in the day, I used to, for one, when I was in high school, I used to grow weed in Hawaii. Can you imagine that? I used to grow weed, used to be always around me. I used to roll joints, I used to sell joints at dances, but I never smoked it. Never smoked it.
Wow.
And then when I was in Japan, before I even smoked, when I was fighting, I had a lot of Yakuza friends. They would offer me weed. And I was like, I don't smoke, but they would give me weed anyway. So I had a tattoo artist that I gave all my weed to. And then, I had all the connections to get weed. So once I started smoking, I was like, fuck, that'd be cool to get that weed. Mm-hmm. So I got the weed. And then I remember thinking, I hated the munchies. Because when I got high and I'm a sweet tooth. I could eat like 5 cakes in a row, eat like custard pudding, chocolate bars, and everything. So the munchies was really bad for me. Mm-hmm. So I would like, the only time I would actually smoke is if either right before I sleep, or if I'm getting like a long Thai massage or something. Mm-hmm. It made me relax. And then I started feeling better. Like, when we go to the clubs like that, I would have a couple hits, get a little high, and sit in the clubs and everything. So that, one thing led to another. I was getting real bold about it to a point where I had fans come up with a joint, and I'd go in the back of a club and smoke, take a couple hits with them, that kind of stuff, which is pretty stupid. So I was getting real bold and real, I was carrying it around, and I started actually. This is funny because Japanese, when we translate this and they read this, they're gonna trip out because I was actually growing and selling.
Shit.
Yeah, and so I had so the day that I got caught, I was going in. It was a Friday night, and I was going into Roppongi to party with my friends. Mm-hmm. So one of my friends ordered 5 grams of weed, and then I rolled 10 joints just to bring down, to pass around and smoke. So I was going down, and on the way down, I just decided to leave early. Decided to go to eat lunch in Tokyo. So I went early, went down, ate lunch. We went and ate sushi. And then some of my friends, I had one of my friends with me. And he's the one that actually had the 5 grams of weed. That was his weed. I sold it to him. He bought it. It was his. We left in the car, went to eat. When we came back from the sushi thing, I remember vividly that I wanted to answer some messages on MySpace.
Right.
So it was from the sushi place. I decided that I'm going to leave early, go to the car, and answer some of my messages on MySpace. So he was still eating. So I went back to the car, sat in the car, got out my computer, started going on MySpace, started answering questions. We already smoked before we ate, so we were high. We had a roach in the ashtray, and I was on MySpace. And next thing I knew, they were knocking on my window. Shit. And I was in the parking lot. Yeah, I was in the parking lot. They're knocking on my window, and I'm like, oh shit. And they told me to roll up my window. I said, yeah, what's up? They said, oh, they pointed to the roach. They said, what's that on the dashboard? I'm like, oh fuck. So I went and I grabbed the roach, and I said nothing. I was high, yeah. So I didn't have the best reaction. So I grabbed it. They told me get out of the car. I got out. They said, what's in your hand? I put my hand in my pocket, dropped the roach in my pocket. Said nothing's in my hand. They said, now it's in your pocket. And I reached in my pocket, grabbed the joint, put out my pocket empty, and I said, nothing. It's in your hand now. And I was like, oh fuck. Yeah, I tried my best.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I said, "Oh fuck!" And they grabbed it. I grabbed it. I said, and I just kind of, like kind of nomased it. I just said, you know what? It's weed. Here, I said, this. I have weed. Do you have any more? I said, no, I don't have any more weed. They said, okay. They looked into my car in the driver's compartment. There was 10 roll joints in there.
Right.
They goes, oh, what is this? Said, oh fuck, that's weed too. So what they did was they called the investigators to bring the THC kit to test it, and I just sat there in the parking lot, and they brought out that thing. They put the weed in the container. They broke the vials. They mixed it up, and they said if it turned purple, then it's weed. It's THC positive, and then it turned purple.
Right.
So then, I'm the type of guy that doesn't really cry over spilled milk. So my mind was already going in other directions. So when I saw that, I grew my own weed. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
So I kind of wanted to know if that test could actually tell the strength of the weed. Yeah. So I asked the guy, is the color purple? Is that if it's a darker color, can you tell the strength of the weed? He goes, no, it's just testing THC positive or not. And I was like, oh shit. So I couldn't tell if my weed was really good. Yeah. So I'm sitting there. There's a crowd starting to come around. And in Japan, interesting thing in Japan is when you see police talking to somebody and they're in their uniform and they have their regular the black and white cars, that's not that serious. But if you see a cop car come with a red light and it's a normal car, it's an undercover car, and the police officers that come out, if they're all in plain clothes and they're not in their uniforms, then someone's getting busted. Somebody's going to be convicted. So those two guys came. And I looked at the guys and said, you know what? I said, can I go into the police car? Because all these people started crowding around. And I was famous enough that people would recognize me. So they were cool. They said, okay, you can sit in the car. So I sat in the car. They drove my car out. They took my car to the police station. And they processed me. So they processed me, fingerprinting, pictures, all this mugshot, everything. So everything was cool. They brought me into a room. And they started interrogating me. Asking me, my name, and they confiscated my phone. And so I'm here like, holy shit, all I'm thinking to myself is, I got like 500 grams of dried weed in my house. I got all the setups in my closet with lights hanging, plants in the middle of growth. And I'm thinking, holy shit, I'm going to get busted for not only possession, I'm going to get busted for selling and growing. I'm like, holy shit. So my mind starts racing and I'm thinking, okay, how am I got to let somebody know that I'm arrested. And this is where I outsmarted the police, because I was thinking, how am I going to do that? Because they're not letting me any phone calls. They took away my phone. So I devised this plan. I said that I had a girlfriend at the time. She was actually coming in from visiting her parents. I'm not supposed to pick her up at the airport, but I had this idea to tell them that, I got to pick up my girlfriend at the airport. And if I don't show up, she's going to get worried. So I need to let someone know to pick her up. And so there was, okay, who you want to call? So I picked out this guy, Ikeda, that's like one of the biggest worrywarts in the group. He's like one of the real cautious guys. So I picked him, and I figured I could, somehow let him, hey, I'm arrested. Can you pick up Kyla? My girlfriend's name was Kyla. Can you pick up Kyla and that kind of stuff? And I thought, okay, I know how to do it. It was, okay, give me the number. I'll call him. So they went and called him.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay, shit. I don't know if that plan works. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's happening. The first 3 days in prison, you don't get to see anybody. You only see your lawyer.
So they took you straight to prison then?
Yeah, straight to prison.
Wow.
And then I got to call my lawyer, but I didn't get to see anybody. So that whole night I'm sitting there thinking, holy shit. I know the police, how they work. Once they catch me with possession of marijuana, they're going to go to my house and my gyms to search. And I'm thinking, oh, fuck, I'm waiting for that call. Like, okay, you have possession, but now guess what we found now? And I thought, oh, it's going to be worse. So I'm sitting in the jail. The next morning, I get a visit from my lawyer. And I looked at him and he goes, oh, they went into your gyms in your house. I'm like, oh, fuck. He goes, everything clear. I'm like, what? So I'm like, everything clear? What do you mean everything clear? He goes, no, they didn't find it. I said, didn't? I'm thinking, fuck, I had 2 rooms with lights hanging.
Yeah.
I had all the, the clippings of the dry leaves. I had a whole Ziploc full of buds ready to sell. I'm thinking, holy shit, what happened? And through that whole time, I'm like baffled and wondering what's going on. Why is there nothing? I don't know for the longest time. The next day I'm in jail. What they do is they call me in again, and they call me out, and they handcuff. Every time you leave the cell, you get handcuffed and shackled. So I'm walking out. They're not bringing me to the interrogation room. They're bringing me downstairs to the car. So what the hell's going on? They bring me downstairs to the car. They open my door. They have my sunroof open with the bag of 5 grams of weed hanging out. And they're like, what the fuck is this? And I said, there's more weed. They said, I thought you said there was no more weed. I said, well. And then they told me, one of the cops told me, oh, Yamatodamashii. Oh, this is what you do. This is what Yamatodamashii does. They lie. He said, why didn't you tell us? And I told him, well, I didn't tell you because I was hoping you guys didn't fucking find it. Like, it's fucking an asshole. So I'm like, okay, what an asshole. So they go back in and they add that to the charges. That's the 5 grams that my friend had. Yeah.
Right.
So they bring me into the interrogation room. They have my phone numbers all printed out. And back in that day, the phones, you could actually categorize all the numbers, yeah, like friends, family, reporter, and I had one that said Yakuza.
Oh shit!
So they had all those numbers printed out. They started asking me about who's this guy, and I'm straight up telling them, I don't know, he's just a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Why you have this number? I said, as a fighter, I have fans. They come, give me their number, I take it. That's all. I mean, some of them are really close friends, but I pretended like I knew none of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're telling me, that then they want to know where I got my weed. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I cannot tell them who I bought it from because I'm not about to throw anyone under the bus. They asked me about if it was all my weed. I told them, yes, it was all my weed. I'm not going to say it was my friend. So, it was one of those processes where you kind of have to just take the fall. So I knew that if I didn't give them a name of anybody who would, that I bought it from, that would even look worse on me. So I decided to have this imaginary person in my head. I had a guy that in Guam, one of my students, Tony, that doesn't come to Japan. So I figured I'd use him. He was like a promoter, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, they asked me who you bought it from. I said, Tony. They said, oh, how come he came to Japan? I said, I don't know. He visits friends in Japan. And all he did was he loves weed. He attained weed. And before he left, he said, hey, I got this left over. I don't want to throw it away. You want it? So I said, yeah, I want it. And then they said, why do you want weed? I said, well, it helps me sleep. And they said, it's illegal. I said, yeah, I know it's illegal. And they're asking me to describe Tony. So I'm describing the actual guy.
Right.
I know he doesn't come to Japan. And he has like a Fu Manchu beard. So I said, yeah, he's kind of chunky. He has a long beard. He's not really out of shape, but he likes smoking. He comes around, long hair, always wears a hat. I'm describing the actual guy. So it's easy to not make a mistake. When you lie, sometimes they'll catch some discrepancies in your statements.
Mm-hmm.
But by doing that, I made sure I was actually doing a real guy. And they asked me, okay, when is he coming to Japan again? I said, I don't know. I said, I have no idea when he's coming to Japan. He just comes in and calls me and says he's in Japan. And this time, sometimes he gives me weed when he's leaving. And this was one of the times, and I just had the leftover weed. So in order to keep my girlfriend out of it, I told that she knows nothing about the weed. I would hide. I told him I hide the weed in my car, and whenever I go to smoke it, I go smoke it because I only smoked it to go to sleep. So before going to sleep, I would sneak out to the car, smoke it in the car, and then come out and sleep. So she knows nothing about the weed. So it kind of got her out of it. And it was like crazy, man, because the first interrogation was all about who you got it from, all this kind of stuff, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just, I couldn't say anything, so it was just getting crazy. And they're telling me, you got to tell us who it is or it's going to get harder on you. And one of the big investigators, his name was, I forget his name. I forget people that I don't want to remember, but anyway, Uchiyama. His name was Uchiyama. The head investigator, Uchiyama, he was interrogating me. And then he told me, hey, you be honest with me, we can work together. I'm like, I know what that means. He wants me to give him information. So I looked at him. I remember telling him this was pretty interesting because it'd be cool if we could get him on the podcast and he could vouch for this. But I looked at him and I told him, I said, you're a man. I'm a man. I said, why are you asking me to throw my manhood out? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, even if you told me I get 20 years for this, I wouldn't give you a name. And I wouldn't want to go back on my word. I wouldn't want to backstab a friend. I said, why are you asking me to do that? As a man, you should understand that. And this guy was fucking trippy. He went and said, wakarimashita, I understand. Never asked me again. Backed off, never asked me again. That was a trip, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
So he backed off on that. Never asked me again. And the interrogations were about 8 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I went back to my room. The next day they called me up again. They had a whole list of the numbers and some pictures printed out, asking me about whose number is this, whose number is that, that kind of stuff. And I just kept saying, no, that's a friend. That's just, I don't know that guy, or I don't know that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they asked me again, they went back to Tony, the guy who sold me the weed.
Right.
And this is a real funny part. I even talked about this on the Joe Rogan podcast, but they asked me Tony, and they caught me off guard because we were talking about Tony a lot because I was describing him. I said, what's Tony's last name? And just for some reason out of my mouth, I said Montana. Exactly. That's what I thought they were going to react like. So as soon as I said Montana, I kind of like, fuck. And I kind of wanted to change the name, but then it was already out. And they started writing it down, Montana. They wrote it down. I was like, fuck.
At least they say it kind of different. Like,
I'm waiting for them to say something like, you're fucking with us, or, something like that. And I'm sitting there like, oh, damn. And they just wrote it down like, holy shit, that actually went by. Yeah. So apparently in the records, the guy who I bought weed from was Tony Montana.
Scarface himself.
So long story short, the interrogation went crazy. On the third day, I had to go to court. So we rewind a little bit. Before we put me in a cell, I had a cell with 5 guys in it. It's a cell. It's a rectangle cell I would say it's about 10 feet by 15 feet, with a bathroom in the back, no chairs, no walls, no nothing, an empty room.
Yeah, cool.
So we sat in that room, and all they did was they had a little opening in the front. Whenever it was lunchtime, they'd slide the tray into the hole, and that's it, man. So there was 5 guys in my room. We sat there, and on the third day, I had to go to court. So when we go to court, there's about, because I was arrested in Tokyo, we go to court in Tokyo. And as you know, Tokyo covers a lot of districts. So you're looking at over 50 prisons in Tokyo that the prisoners are going to. So the day that I went, there was 138 guys. From our prison, Ikebukuro, there was about 30 guys. So what happened was we would have to get out of our cells, line up. They'd shackle us and handcuff us and they'd pass a rope through our hands. So we're all lined up in a line, like the freaking movies, man.
Yeah.
And the thing that was real crazy is they would fucking count us like 8 times before we even got to the prison. So as soon as we get out of the cell, we standing outside the cell, they're counting us. And the way they count too is like roll like the movies kind. They wouldn't go 1, 2, 3. They'd be like ich, ni, some, three, go. They were like whoa, what the fuck? Like an army kind of count. And then they would handcuff us. As they're leading us out of the prison cell, they would fucking count us as we go out again. We get into the main police office. We start going to the exit to walk down the stairs to the big van. They're fucking counting us again. We're leaving the staircase going into the open air, fucking counting us again. Get into the bus, they're counting us walking into the bus. As soon as we sit down in the bus, they chain us up into the roll bars in the seat. So we're not only strung all together, we're chained on the bars in the bus. Then they count us there too. Like anyone's going to go anywhere like that. And then getting off the bus, going into the courtroom, they're counting us leaving the bus. They count us going into the courtroom. They count us going into the cell in the courtroom. It's crazy. And you know, the fucking crazy thing is, I was like, I hope no one finds out. I hope my mom them don't find out. I hope I can go through all this without nobody finding out. And when we're going down the stairs to the police station, one of the cops who was a fan of mine kind of leaned over and was, Press is outside. I'm like, oh, fuck. He said, yeah, Press is outside. So sure enough, as soon as the door opened to the prison, before we walked into the bus, there was like 5 or 6 cameras just right on the edge of the street. And they had lights and they were filming us. And I was like, I wanted to like go like this to them. Because, you know, I was actually retired. I was out of the news and everything. And, you know, my name wouldn't make a story. But as soon as something like this happens, all of a sudden I'm someone they want in the media again. So I kind of felt like, you know, the media would use people and in a downtime like this, just because it'll sell stories, they want to get me on it. So I wanted to tell them, fuck you and everything. But I decided not to. There's some people that get arrested, famous people, that they do this and they hide their face. They don't want to be seen. And I thought, I'm a man. I got to stand up for who I am. And, you know, I fucked up. Face the music. So I said, okay. So there was actually a video. I can't find it anymore, but there's actually a picture of me walking with the police right next to me. And I don't know. I guess I didn't want to look sad. I didn't want to look. So I just kind of kept my head up. And I don't know. That picture just seems like I'm smirking, like I'm laughing, which I'm not. So we go to the courts. It's crazy, bro, the courts. Okay, this is all happening before we're determined guilty now. Mm-hmm. So in Japan, the law is they can hold you for 20 days without charging you. But on the 20th day, they have to charge you or release you. So they have to charge you, set a bail, and release you, or they have to say, okay, we got nothing on you, you can go home. Up until then, we're innocent men. But look at what's happening. We're being shackled, we're being we're being interrogated for 8 hours. Went to the courts. We're all shackled. We all put into a room. So we get put into a room that has 2 concrete benches facing each other. And you can sit 8 on each row. So there's 16 guys in a room. Bro, we're sitting down in our handcuffs. We take off the shackles, but in our handcuffs, we're sitting in that room just facing each other. We get there at 10 in the morning. Everyone, there was 138 prisoners that time. So everyone gets called up separately. We get in at 10 o'clock. I got called up at 3 that day. After you're done, you get like a 40-minute talk with the investigator. You go back to the cell, and they pack everyone up at 6. So you're sitting there from 10 a.m. to 6 o'clock, handcuffed, and you can't talk.
Fuck.
You're sitting there in the room, and you just gotta wait. And then if you say something, they'll scream at you, "Stop talking!"
Whoa.
There's a little toilet in the corner that you can, if you gotta do your business, you gotta go in the corner, but you gotta do it with handcuffs on and everyone can see you. Lunchtime came. You know what we had for lunch? We had 3 slices of bread. We had a little tube of peanut butter, a little tube of jelly, and a little carton of juice.
Wow.
And
Your
we had
internet.
to eat it with our handcuffs on.
Fuck.
So if I'm biting the sandwich, I'm biting the sandwich like this. If I want to drink my juice, I gotta put the sandwich down, grab my juice, and drink my juice.
Damn.
So yeah, so after all that's done, when it was torture, because sitting there from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock without being called, without being able to talk, was fucking crazy. And I finally got called up to that I could talk to the investigator, the prosecutor. I went up to talk to him. 40 minutes later, I'm back in that seat for another 2 or 3 hours, sitting down waiting for the bus to leave. The bus is about to leave. They count us again. They get us in the buses. They drop off all the prisoners. When we get to the prison that I'm at, once again, fucking media cameras all outside waiting for me to get off the bus. So the 4th day after all that court hearing and shit, I had my first visitation, and one of my students came and visited me, and I asked him, I said, fuck, man, I said, can you keep this quiet? It was the guy who runs my gym now. So I said, can you keep it quiet? Can you not tell anyone anything about it? And he goes, Enson, you're on primetime TV. I was like, oh, fuck, so everybody knows. So that was my whole thing. And then my next whole thing was, I hope my parents don't find out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was the experience was crazy, because the amazing thing about prison is you lose your freedom. You lose your freedom of choice. You lose your freedom of deciding anything. Your whole life is controlled. They tell you when you brush your teeth, when you sleep, when you wake up, what you eat, how much you eat, what you drink. We could take a bath once every 5 days. We could wash our clothes once every 7 days.
Fucking hell.
We had to go to sleep at 9 o'clock, wake up at 6. We had any type of books. We could only choose from the books that they had. And we only had books from 11 in the afternoon to 11 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. They would collect all our books, all our pens. You could ask for pens and books to write. And actually, that's where I started writing my book. I had so much time in there. I wrote a diary, and I wrote stories in my book. So book 2, which is being published right now, the diary that I wrote was so raw that the chapter on the prison sentence was pretty much almost all diary.
Wow.
Yeah, so that chapter is pretty deep. Yeah, so it was kind of crazy, because the first 3 days before I knew if I was going to get charged with more because of the growing and the selling and stuff, I was stressing out real bad. But as soon as I found out that everything was clear, I started, getting used to everything, And the biggest thing I learned in prison was you need to have your mind and your body in the same place. Doesn't make sense, right? Let me explain it. So the suffering I did was due to the fact that my mind was somewhere else and my body was in prison. So, for example, Friday night, what we usually do Friday night is at 10 o'clock in the night, we start getting ready to go to Roppongi. We get to Roppongi at least by 12 o'clock, because everyone starts coming in at about 1 in the morning. So when I'm laying down in the cell thinking, I got to go to sleep at 9 o'clock, I'm thinking, holy shit, I'm actually at home eating dinner tonight. When I'm getting served those shitty lunches that they give, I'm thinking to myself, holy fuck, I was eating, like, last week I ate prime shabu shabu. I was on prime Wagyu beef. And then, everything, man, everything. I would even our free times in the free room, the exercise room we had, there was a little window on the bottom that I could peek out. And I just want to see people walking around the street singing, oh, fuck, look at those people. They got their freedom. When we were taking on the bus, when I was sitting in the bus watching people go to work, and some of them looked miserable because they didn't want to go to work. I'm thinking to myself, oh, fuck, you guys got freedom. You guys can choose not to go to work. What are you going to have for lunch today? You can choose to make something at home. You can choose to go to the convenience and buy lunch. I'm sitting in the bus chained to everybody thinking, these people don't realize how great their freedom is. Freedom, we're born with our freedom and we live with our freedom. And until it's taken away like it was taken away from me, you don't realize how awesome freedom is.
Yeah, you take it for granted, right?
Yeah, you take it for granted. And so, as soon as I, realized that, hey, Enson, you're in prison, man. And, the craziest thing, I was in there for 28 days. And everyone can say, 28 days, fuck, that ain't shit. But every day you're in there, you don't know if you're going to be in there for 4 or 6 years. I didn't know how long I was going to be in there. Because I was getting threatened. If I didn't talk, I was going to get this and that. And all the internets were all kind of thinking, the internet in Japan was saying, yeah, he's facing 4 to 6 years for 20 grams of weed. So I'm like, so I'm sitting there like, fuck, I'm suffering too much, thinking about, I should be eating this kind of food. I would be in Roppongi tonight, Saturday night. I can't believe they're turning out the lights at 9 o'clock, and I would be going out. So I just realized that, Enson. I told myself, Enson, that outside world is gone. You're done. You're here. You're in here. So I took my mind out of there and stopped thinking about what I would have been eating, what I would be doing, and I just put my brain and my mind in prison. And it's funny because without thinking about the outside, I could find good things in prison. If I'm comparing my life outside of prison, nothing in prison is good. Nothing in prison is cool. But when I shut that out and I didn't have that, and the only things I could compare to and relate to my life was what was in prison, I found stuff that was cool, man. I found after eating my meal, man, I wasn't thinking I should be eating Wagyu beef. They just so happened they had miso soup with the meal. And as soon as I drank the miso soup, it was like, it felt so good. And I started loosening up to everything. And I started fucking around a lot. I started at night when they had lights out. Lights out, but lights not out. Because, they're lights out. They would still keep the light on because the guards would walk through the prison so they could see in case we were doing anything. So we would have to sleep, but the lights would still be on. But lights out meaning go to sleep. Yeah. So, we had, when right before lights out, I would fuck around and, I would scream out real loud, say, Minasan, oyasu minasai. So I'd scream out, everybody, good night. And it was crazy because all the prisoners knew who I was.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was their the prisoners' reactions to you coming in?
Yeah, so my name was my nickname in there was Champion.
Okay.
So they named me Champion. So they would all scream back, good night, Champion, good night, Champion. And it was a trip, I was sitting there in prison thinking, this is fucking crazy, because I would just scream out in a big voice in the middle of the night and say, every night, everybody, good night, right before they turn off the lights. And you could hear it echoing through the prisons, down the hall, hey, Champion, good night. Down next door to me, hey, Champion, good night. And you had 8 or 9 people screaming out Champion. I looked at my friend in the cell and thinking, this is fucking crazy, man. This is crazy. Yeah, and I would screw around because, I had to make fun of everything. I had to make light of the dullest moments. So there were guards. So I'd screw around because there was a chubby guard, so I'd call him fat. They call him Tanto, yeah, Tanto. Right. I don't know. We would have to call him Tanto. We wouldn't call him Omari-san or police or anything. It was Tanto. So I named him Debu Tanto. That means fat Tanto. So I'd fuck around and say, hey, Debu Tanto, and then I would say Baka Tanto. There's one guy that was kind of stupid, so I call him Stupid Tanto. So I kind of screw around like that. Mm-hmm. During the day, they would count us, bro, 2 or 3 times in a day. At 10 in the morning, they would come up, and then as soon as they would say something in Japanese, okay, line up. And we'd all have to line up in our rooms, and they'd have a little billboard, a chart of who's in there. So they would call us up our numbers. And it'd be like this, okay, so my number was 29. So I didn't have a name. My name was 29. So they would call out your number, and, if there's 17, 29, and 30 in the room, they wouldn't just say, "Oh, 17 here, 29." It would be like this. "Junanaman!" And you'd be like, "Hi, Niju Cuban, Chanjuban." It'd be like almost like military shit.
Yeah.
So we would have to go like they did when they call our number. We just go, "Hi." So okay, he's here. Here's okay. Next cell, and they do the same shit in the next cell. So I decided to fucking have fun with it.
Oh, no.
So I told all my cellmates. I told all my cellmates that don't say anything. Just raise your hand when they call you. So they go in there and they call the next guy, and I go, "Hi," and he's raising his hand, but I'm talking. I'm hi, and then they call the other. I go, "Hi." They call the other. I go, "Hi." So I'm fucking around like that. And they kind of know I'm doing that. They look at me, and I see one guy with his hat on, real serious, kind of shaking his head like he's mad. And they go on the next one. And then one of the days, what I did was you kind of can hear them coming because you're counting all the guys in the other rooms. So what I did was we had magazines that we could look at, and there was like a centerfold with like a lady in a bikini and shit.
Right.
So as soon as they came, they're all serious, and they're like, oh, they don't even blink, kind of shit. So as soon as they came up, I went whoop, and I opened up the magazine. I was holding it up like that. And then they kind of started shaking their head. They did that. They just went on with their thing. Yeah.
Right.
And then,
Man.
yeah, so that was, it was, I mean, I could go, there's so many stories about that whole experience, man.
Yeah.
Even magazines, we would pass around magazines, because the magazines they had in prison was shitty magazines. So the people, our friends they call it sashire. Sashire is to, I don't know what you call it in English, where you bring and you give something to the inmate. So you could give a book, or you could give letters like that, or you could donate money to the guy so he could buy a notepad and pens like that to write. So some people would get magazines. So what the prisoners would do is we would pass them around. After I read them, I'd give them to another prisoner. We started doing that, which was pretty cool. And it was crazy because there was I remember the funny thing in my prison was there was this little young kid named Sano. He was caught for fondling a girl on the train.
Ooh.
And the reports are that he followed her from this station to this station. So it's like a 3-minute ride. So he was like totally distressed, like crying every night. He wouldn't eat. And we started fucking around with him because we'd tell him like, "Oh, Sano, you must be good." He goes, "What?" I said, "Fuck, she from one station to the next, she was fondling her. Fuck, she must have felt good, man." And we're like, and he said, I didn't do it. He's telling me like, "Oh, why didn't you just tell me? Smell my finger. I didn't do shit." And we're like fucking around with him.
Right.
And we're thinking, "Oh shit, I don't know." He was really like stressing out big time.
Yeah.
And it was kind of crazy because he would he claimed his innocence to the end, man.
Really? Wow.
Yep. He didn't sleep. He wouldn't eat. And then first day he wouldn't eat. They give us our portions is so small. So when he wouldn't eat, we're like, "Okay, hey, you better eat, man." The first day we tell him, "You better eat, man." You cannot. He doesn't want to eat, so he refused to eat. So we're like, "Oh fuck, we're not gonna waste the food." So we kind of grab from each other. And then the next day, we're like, "Okay, Sano, you gonna eat?" He goes, "No, you're not gonna eat." Okay, well, we're grabbing his food, splitting it up. Yeah, it was crazy, man. And then I would I remember I wanted to stay in shape, so I would have all my roommates sit in the middle of the room because they would just sit down and read books and stuff all day. So I put them all in the center of the room, and then I started running laps. So every 50 laps, I would do 25 push-ups. I forget. I got it in my diary, but I forget how much.
Yeah.
I ended up every day I did like hundreds of push-ups and hundreds of laps around the cell. Yeah. So
it's crazy the way you found ways to entertain yourself.
It's real controlled. Japanese prisons are probably one of the worst there is, man.
Sounds tough.
Yeah,
What?
it's really bad.
I'm conscious of time just because we've been talking about it. It's just crazy. Like, this insight is insane. But before we like wrap it up, 2 quick questions. First of all, did anyone give you any shit while you're in prison? Like,
Yeah.
not the guards, but like maybe the prisoners. Did anyone like try?
Yeah, one of the Yakuza prisoners. There's a Yakuza prisoner that kept beating up his roommates.
Fuck.
Yeah, and then he kept beating up his roommates, and he ended up being by himself. So I had this bright idea of practicing my spinning back kicks. So I would start spinning back kick and kicking the wall, and it's a huge concrete wall. So it would rattle the prison and be like doom, doom. So I started doing that, and then that Yakuza guy was getting mad. Urusai! He said to me, shut up! And then after, when he first did it, I was like, whoa. I looked at my room, I was like, oh, fuck. But I was thinking, how he won't know who did it. So fuck it. So I did it again. Every time I kicked, he'd fucking scream. He'd be pissed off. Finally, the guards came and told me to stop doing that. So I couldn't kick the wall. So I was like, fuck, okay, I can't kick the wall. That's cool. So one day we went out to brush our teeth. So they let out certain rooms to brush their teeth. So we went to brush our teeth, and then this guy starts facing up to me when we get outside. And then I'm just brushing my teeth next to him, and he starts cussing me out, telling me fucking to you urusai, you're too noisy and shit. And I was just really like worked up in there. So I just grabbed him. I grabbed him, slammed him on the wall, and all the guards, had like 8 guards came running, but they didn't touch me. They wouldn't touch me. Let him go, let him go, let him go. And so I had him on the arm. I still had toothpaste in my mouth and shit. So I remember that. I remember just fuck this guy, man, fucking. So I just let him go, and he kind of fell to the ground like I beat him up or something, like slumped to the ground. And I just walked away. And then one of the guards put me back in my cell, and then the guards came and told me, they told me, please don't do that again. He said, he's been terrorizing everybody, even the prisoners, and even the guards. He said, so fuck, he needed that. He said, but please don't do it again because we're going to have to do something. I said, okay. So I got off with it. But yeah, that happened. Yeah. So yeah, that Yakuza guy. I wonder what happened to him. I think he was high on ice. Yeah.
Right. Maybe he's still there.
No shit. Yeah.
Depends what he did, right? I don't know.
I had problems with that, and there was one guard that was really a good fan, so he would let me weigh myself. And there was another guard. I got to tell you this story. There's another guard. His name was Baka. I called him Baka Tanto, the stupid Tanto. But one day after brushing my teeth, I stood next to him, and I looked at him. I said, hey, I said, you know what? I said, if I had life in prison, I said, I would try to beat you up. And he looked at me. He goes, who? And I said, I mean, if I had life in prison, I wouldn't care. And I said, if I were to beat you up, I said, even if you had the other guys come, I said, you would probably have to kill me to stop me. And I kind of fucked around with him because he was kind of stupid. So I kind of told him, hey, I have a question, man. Are you ready to kill somebody? And he looked at me. He goes, oh, I don't want to kill anybody. I said, well, if I had life in prison and I wanted to beat you up, you would have to kill me. And he kind of looked at me like, "Whoa, wow!" And I kind of just chuckled, and I just tapped him on the back and went to my room. I would kind of fuck around with these guys like that.
I bet it scared the shit out of him.
I know. Okay. And even this other guard, bro, this fucking guard, bro. When you get arrested, they take everything off of you, yeah, all your wallet, everything. So in my wallet, to make sure to give me everything back, they would write every little thing in my wallet. So what is this paper? Okay, write it down. What is this? What about this ID? What about this? Everything. But there was this like little karaoke club point card, like a little paper thing, a coupon, yeah?
Yeah.
And he goes, what is this? And he goes, is this important? Do you need this? I'm like, yes, it's a 20% off coupon next time I go karaoke. I said, he goes, it's important? I said, you know what? I said, everything in my wallet is in my wallet because it's something I want to keep. And he goes, oh. He pulls out, bro, like literally 20 seconds later, he pulls out another paper that was another different paper. He says, "You need this." And I looked at him, I said, "You know what?" I said, "I need everything in my wallet." And he looked at me, kind of looked at me, shook his head, and kind of like, kind of like smirked at me. So I looked at him, I said, "You know what?" I told him, I said, I'm not a person that stays in prison. I'm in the outside world like you are in the outside world. And I said, be careful, because one day I'm going to see you in that outside world, because I'm not going to be here forever. And be careful when I see you in the outside world. He got super fucked up. He was like, whoa. And I remember I glanced over at one of the higher up guards, and he kind of laughed. I called him up, and he laughed, and he shook his head. So I kind of backed it off, because I thought I got away with that, threatening the guard. Yeah, so that was another funny thing that happened. So much shit, man. And I know it's getting, but yeah, no, it's crazy, man. I mean, reading my book, you'll probably get more details, but my parents actually found out about it like a week into my sentence.
Ooh.
And they found out because one of my cousins called them and said they saw it on the internet, fucking internet, and they asked, is Enson okay? So my mom's like, what do you mean Enson's okay? Why wouldn't he be okay? He said, oh, he's in prison. And my mom then, man, unbelievable. My mom and my dad jumped on a flight, came out to Japan, and although they couldn't, they knew they couldn't really see me unless they had visitations, my mom wanted to just be close to me. So she actually, next to the prison, there was a hotel. They got that hotel. And the kind of screwed up thing about it was I was already over the suffering. But once I found out they found out, and once I found out that they were nearby, I fucking started suffering again.
Yeah.
I mean, every free time we had, I would peek out the window to see if I could catch a glimpse of them walking outside. When my mom requested visitation, I denied visitation because I didn't want her to see me like this. I'm in prison outfit. Yeah, prison outfit, sitting in a thick glass, so we can only talk with a prison guard sitting next to me. So I didn't want to do that. I didn't want them to have that. They try to stay long enough to see me come out of prison, because I was supposed to come out in 20 days. So they actually changed their flight 2 or 3 times. And I decided that, at the end, I thought, fuck, you know what, man, they came all the way out here. I'm going to let them see me. So I did that, and to my surprise, my mom said, "No, we don't need to see you. Don't worry about it." And she wrote me a letter that made me freaking cry in prison. In my next book, the letters, I printed the letter out. But she was like the greatest mother, man. She said, we just wanted to be near you to show you our support. We know that you're going through these hard times. To see you wasn't the thing; it was just to show you that we support you. Don't worry about it. We don't need to see you. And they had to fly out. Yeah, so that was hard for me when I found out that they found out. I remember thinking when I first got arrested, oh fuck, I let down my fans, and thinking that these parents who big fans of mine that named their children after me, it's not fair to them. And then when my parents found out that, even I hit another low, like, man, I fucked up, man. It's not their fault. How parents will start blaming themselves. It's me. I fucked up. I made stupid choices. I thought, oh damn, I'm going to disappoint my parents so badly. That hurt a lot. So yeah, that was one of the hardest points, is when I found out that my parents found out.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's just like
yeah. But man, you know what though, man? It was a good experience. It made me appreciate my freedom. And it's really weird, because I've learned so much in prison. I became a better man. What happened is, when I came out, I changed my life. I stopped touching weed. I stopped growing weed. I stayed away from all the weed stuff. And I feel like it's made me a better person. And I catch myself thinking, oh fuck, legally I didn't need to let the cops search my car. I could have just locked my door and said, nope, you can't see anything. And I could have walked away. And They wouldn't have the right to make me. Yeah, they would either have to wait there all day until I came back, which they wouldn't have,
Mm-hmm.
And I keep thinking, I should have done that. But I say, wait, no, everything turned out for the better. I learned so much through that. I lost my freedom. I lost my reputation. But I got it all back. I got my reputation back. I got my freedom back. And I have the knowledge that I've gained in there. So for me, it was a good thing. Freedom, man. People don't realize how you see someone on the street, you want to punch him in the face, and you think, fuck this guy, I'm going to punch him in the face. But is that worth losing your freedom? I mean, people don't realize, for me, I'm sitting down right here. I choose podcasts. I choose to wake up. I can go to the fridge and get cold water. You can't do that in prison. I choose when I want to, what time I'm going to sleep tonight. I might sleep at 1 o'clock tonight. You don't choose that in prison. What time are you going to wake up? I don't have nothing in the morning. I'll sleep until 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. You don't choose that in prison. You lose everything. You don't have your freedom. People don't realize how lucky we are to have our freedom. So, prison has, for me, I really believe that it was such a good experience for me. And if I could sit back and, really look back at everything that I got, how much I suffered and what I got out of prison, I think the Enson after prison is a much better Enson than now. So, I would not rewind the hands and change that. I think that was something that molded me who I am and something that I needed in my life. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, man. It's such a really amazing perspective that you have on it, right? And you're someone that definitely can take a negative and look at the positive side of it, which I think a lot of people need to do. But
yeah.
Oh man, I don't even know how to wrap this up. That was such a fucking awesome story.
My second book is going to probably be coming out in a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to have a very, very detailed, the whole story of everything in there.
I tell you what, you mentioned the book, right? But if ever there was, someone was going to do a movie on someone from MMA, like you're my top candidate, that's for sure. Because every different avenue of your life it would have to be a fucking
well, me and Sarah actually talk about it. We talk about that. My life would be a fucking crazy story, man. A crazy movie.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, TV series.
Hopefully they'll make a movie of my life before I die. I kind of want to see it.
Who do you have play you? I gotta ask.
The Rock.
Same haircut.
Because he's so fucking in shape, and I wish I looked like The Rock.
You got the same haircut, so.
No, you know who would actually be good to play me too? John Lewis would be good.
Yeah?
Yeah, he kind of has that look, that gangster look too, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Has the tattoos, everything.
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome, man. Well, I want to thank everyone for watching. If you've got any suggestions, if you enjoyed this, we can always do another episode on some of the other stuff maybe we missed part of your, the tenure that you were in prison. But let us know, guys, and we'll speak to everyone soon.